Why are mechanics so freaking expensive? Hey there, viewers. I wanted to touch base today on why are mechanics so expensive? Well, for this particular craft, there's a lot of money involved in getting set up. A lot of tools. I've got these two big boxes behind me that you can see. What you can't see is other stuff around the room, that specialty tools, specialty equipment. I got a $4,000 recovery machine over here. Matter of fact, I need to buy a $6,000 recovery machine to replace this one. Thousands of dollars in scanners. I've probably got tens of thousands of dollars invested in scanners. Easily over $100,000 worth of tools that I've invested in my craft here. And that said, you can't work on stuff for free. And that's not really considered too much by the customer side of it. Now, some mechanics are out to take advantage. I'll give you that, especially if you go to the dealership. A lot of mechanics will tell you need stuff you don't need. They'll come to me and say, hey, this needs $3,000 worth of work according to them, and usually they leave here for under a few $100. So I try to be an honest mechanic. Those are hard to find these days. I try not to replace things that don't need replacing. However, when you look at labor rates on mechanics, you'll see on the low side 125 to 250, sometimes even more than that per hour. And where does all that come from? Well, as pointed out earlier, $100,000 worth of tools, you got to make up from somewhere else. Also, there's certificates and continuing education and all kinds of stuff that we have to get involved in. And so when you see that large hourly amount, that we're not making that hourly amount. Another thing I like to point out is that when we book a job, we book it based on a book time. So for example, let's say that you had an alternator that needed to be replaced on your car, and we look it up in the book and it says it's going to take 3 hours to replace that alternator. We bill out the job at 3 hours. Now, what often happens is we'll get the car in, we'll start on the job, and along the way we're going to find other things that are messed up, or we get something that breaks because old cars get brittle, harnesses break, snap, whatever. And so it ends up being a much longer process to replace the car. Sometimes you get a bolt that breaks. That happens, and that can turn a 20-minute job into a several-hour job. So just because the book says it's 3 hours doesn't necessarily mean it's only going to take 3 hours. And then when you add to that, sometimes you end up with the wrong parts from the parts house, and that wrong part has to get reordered, and they don't have it locally. They got to get it from the warehouse. They got to get it from somewhere else. Well, now you got a car tying up your bay, then it's stuck there and you can't do nothing with it. So that 3 hour job could very well take you all day long or even longer. People think that mechanics are just, burning down the bread. It's not like that. The typical mechanic doesn't really take home a whole lot of money at the end of the week. Even your well-paid mechanics don't take a whole bunch of money home at the end of the week when you factor in what they had to buy and what they had to get certified in, or what they had to learn to do that job. Not downplaying teachers. I know teachers sometimes have to supply their own pencils and paper. Believe me, I'd rather supply pencils and paper. The tools that I buy are god-awful expensive, and a lot of them are very specialty. Like, you can only use them for one thing, one time, and chances are you won't ever see that job again. Or if you do, it's years down the road. One great example of that is a tool that I own to change a water pump on a Cadillac Northstar engine. Northstars weren't even used for that long of a period of a time, and the fact that you get a bad water pump on one of those things, also very slim, but I paid a good penny for that one tool to do that one job. Recently had a timing set job that came in. It was over $400 worth of tools to get set up to do the timing set on this car. And it's a very specific car. But in order to get the job done, that's what I had to do. And I don't charge that to the customer. I do love working on cars from time to time, but I don't do it out of the goodness of my heart, and I certainly don't want to go in the hole doing it. I do this as a means of putting food on the table. So when you're paying that repair bill and you're like, oh, he's got a $100 shop minimum. Yes, I do. I won't touch a car for less than $100, and I'll tell you why. The time that it takes to get it in, get it set up, start diagnosing, this, that, and the other. I mean, I'm going to have at least an hour into it before it's all said and done, and that's if I don't quote parts. And that's another thing. Parts. Research takes time. So let's say I bring a car in, I do a diagnosis on it, I find out what all's wrong, how many codes it's got, I start doing the diagnostics tree and checking this and checking that and checking this. Well, that's all time. And then more importantly, once I nail down what's wrong with the car, the next thing I gotta do is go to the computer and look up those parts. Where can I get them from? Who has them locally? Can I get them quickly? Is it gonna take a while? Am I gonna have to special order these? I will spend an hour researching parts for a car. So even though the job itself may not seem like a big job, by the time you factor in the diagnostic time, the time looking up parts, the checking this and checking that, it adds up. A pet peeve for almost every mechanic, me included, is when you got somebody that calls you up and it's like, hey, how much can you do this for? Well, again, that is time. I gotta stop what I'm doing, look up those parts, assuming that your diagnostic is correct, and it often isn't, but I gotta look up and make sure what those parts cost, how soon I can get them, this, that, and the other, in order to shoot you a quote back. Well, to you, that was only a couple minute exchange, but to me, it spent 15, 20 minutes looking this up, looking that up. I gotta look up the book values, I gotta look up the parts values, I gotta look at where I can get the parts, where they're coming from, how soon I can get them, this, that, and the other. So 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, it all adds up. And in the course of a day, I get at least 5 to 10 of these. So you're talking about hours out of my day, even when I'm not working on cars. And I got to stop working on cars in order to do those quotes. So these are all things that contribute to what a mechanic charges by the hour. I say all that to say this. A mechanic isn't getting paid $300. He's not clearing $300. And then when you take into account that all the tools that he had to buy to get there or to be able to do the job, and then you take out what he had to spend on education to be able to do the job in the first place, it all adds up. On a $100 job, that most mechanics are only clearing about $25 to $35 an hour, which isn't much. Considering how much they have to provide to do their job, it's chump change. And then with the bigger shops, you got overhead, you got insurance, you've got lease payments on the building, you've got equipment costs, shop lifts aren't cheap, and everything else. So all of that adds up. So next time you're complaining about that repair bill you get, think it over. I mean, just imagine how much they had to spend to get to that point. And we're not trying to make all the money on you. We just need to be able to put food on the tables and still be able to buy tools and education and equipment and whatnot. I hope this helps. I hope this clears the air about the mechanics and how much the mechanics make and why the bill is what the bill is. If you learned anything, please like, share, and subscribe. Comment down below. I'll answer any questions you got. And thanks for watching.